buy point. That if you do believe in the Jets, would you rather go in on them to win the division before the season starts if you're buying? Or maybe do you wait a little bit? Maybe do you wait with all these new pieces in the offense, maybe taking some time to gel? And I bring this up because here's their first month of the season. Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs. That's a tough start, guys. Oof. Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs. And in week 6, you get the Eagles too. Now, if you go to the end of the season, let's go last 6 weeks. I see Atlanta, Houston, at Miami, tough spot. Host Washington, Cleveland, and New England. Much softer than the start of the season. So maybe a month in would be a good buy point on some Jets futures.
Point to the Dolphins and you go, okay, they had a really good performance against the Bills in the playoffs. I mean, they definitely covered that number and almost won that game outright. That was a massive number that they, covered and nearly pulled off the upset with in that playoff game last season. I wonder, and we look at schedules a lot, and sometimes a second or third place schedule is actually tougher or easier than just saying it's a second or third place schedule. But specifically, when you're looking at the Dolphins, I wonder if we need to look at them a little bit more positively, because even though they're in a really tough division, that offense may have the most upside, even when you include Aaron Rodgers with the Jets and the Bills with all the playmakers they could have.
That was a 2-touchdown spread, that playoff game. Wow. 14 in a playoff game. But yeah, everybody was down on them for sure. They lost those 5 games in a row, and they got swept on that 3-game road stretch. So, yeah, and then the lack of health there, of course, a quarterback, and you had Skylar Thompson played in 7 games. Bridgewater, we were waiting for the Teddy Covers guy that everybody talks about, and it just never happened. I thought last year was evident, like, okay, Teddy's, yeah, it's just about the end of the road as far as Teddy. Should we give more love to them? I'll tell you what Ramsey is going to be the big change that people are going to talk about. And sometimes you get thrown into competitive situations. A player that did have it a couple of years ago, you see it again, right? What I'm most interested in, and maybe I'm wrong on this, because it's the side of the ball that isn't as predictable, but he's on the short list of guys that I value as a defensive coordinator. The addition of Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is a huge plus for this team in a tough division. Going to face Rodgers a couple times, of course, Josh Allen a couple times, among other quarterbacks. I think that could be a huge boost to this defense. Yeah, man. Pirates out. They were in first place. Not anymore. They've lost 7 in a row. And now they're quickly the long shot in the division. Brewers, are they going to trade their pieces away? It's the same conversation that we've been having all season. We'll see as we get closer and closer. And just like process of elimination, we've been waiting on the Cardinals all year. So how much do you believe in this? But looking at the Reds and Cubs, I think that's the correct process.
National League MVP race. How much stock are you buying into the idea that Corbin Carroll could win this thing?
I mean, listen, if they finish near the top of the National League, I do think he has a pretty strong case. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. I expect them to be third or even fourth under their division as well. The Dodgers pitching really scares me. They're a team that's had a bunch of depth for the last few years, or as long as we can really remember. But I don't think Arizona's pitching is going to hold up. But their lineup is super legit, and they could pretty much put a 10 spot on anybody. So I do think he'll kind of stay up there as long as they're kind of in the wild card race. But I definitely don't expect them to win the NL West. And I mean, like we talked about, there being so many bad teams, I could see them getting one of the last wild card spots. But unless they win the division and kind of keep this pace, I don't really see him getting in front of Ronald. I mean, I do think that the Mets have a little bit of value here. even though I do lean towards Houston. So I'm a little curious to see if we do see any Mets money come in, and that might get me a little bit closer to Houston. As bad as we think that like Verlander has pitched this year, him and Framber have an identical expected WOBA at 307, so that was a little surprising. I thought his might be more closer to the 340 range in Verlander. So I mean, it's really not as big of a pitching advantage as you would think. And I know there was a stat about the Astros; they're about 500 when anybody other than Framber or Christian Javier starts. So they're getting most of their wins with those two guys on the mound. So I feel like if any Mets money comes in, I'll probably be jumping on the Astros.
Christian, what about Cam Whitmore here? The over-under on his draft position is 5.5, and in your latest mock, you're right there at 5. But I've also heard some chatter that he could possibly break into the top 3, and you noted in your latest piece that he could fall down the draft boards. What are you hearing about Whitmore?
Cam Whitmore is all over the place, and I chalk that up just to pure smoke, right? Like, we saw him working out with Chris Brickley and Carmelo Anthony. He looked great. I saw him this morning in the hotel lobby downstairs getting breakfast. He looks calm. He's not panicking. Usually, if a player is falling, I'm hearing from an agent or anyone trying to protect that, or we find out why he's falling. And there is every team I talk to, they're like, it's either, Cam Whitmore 4 to the Rockets love Cam Whitmore, they would love Cam Whitmore, or it's, I don't know, I think he could fall to 10, but I can't find why. Like, did he have a meltdown in a workout? Did this happen? I mean, there is no reason for it. And years past, anytime we start hearing these crazy things, it's just all smokescreen. I think he's going to be at play for sure at 4 and 5. I do not think he sneaks up to 2 or 3.
Is there any other player that you're thinking, there's just a little too much hype on this guy, and you could also see potentially fall in this draft?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's fair to say these players are falling because of this, that, the other. It's just that other teams are favoring a different player this late in the game. Kobe Buskin kind of shot up late last week and is having strong workouts. I talked to a player that was in the gym with him the past couple of weeks, and he said, this dude's a bad mother effer, and whoever drafts him is going to get one of the best guards in this draft class. So we're seeing Kobe's name sneak into the lottery as well.